I'm 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗄 Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how we work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers that they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system.
Hello, everybody. My name is Erika Hebert, and 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗄 and team have invited me here today to talk about some pretty cool 2024 trends that we as learning and development professionals can keep our eyes on. A little bit about me. I have 25 plus years in learning and development. Yes, I started when I was 5. But in those years, I've had the opportunity of working with a lot of global audiences from different generations in many, many different industries. And through that time, I've always kept my eye on those emerging trends and really tried to make those connections with our business strategy. So today, we're going to do some of that together. Today, I'm going to offer my insights into those latest trends that are really shaping employee training and development, and then how those trends will help you adapt the changing needs of the workforce. And as part of our journey today, we'll look at emerging trends and how they relate to the modern learner, with a discussion of what some of those younger incoming generations are going to expect from us as learning and development professionals. All right, so as younger generations are coming into the workforce, they do expect learning to be a little bit different than some of the more traditional approaches that many organizations rely on. So I'm going to take us into a case study first before we launch into our trends. So this is Evan. He's hanging out with his friends. He's 15. He's in 9th grade. From a generational perspective, he's considered Gen Z. Now, there's only about 5% of the workforce today that's from his generation, but they are coming our way, and we need to be ready. Now, a couple of other things about Evan that I think is kind of interesting. He doesn't know what it's like not to have technology. He learns by watching YouTube and TikTok in 30-second spurts. He has watched videos of gamers. Oh, yes, he's into gaming, of course, to learn how to be better at video games. When he was younger and he was into Minecraft, he would watch a 30-second YouTube video about how to craft something in Minecraft. He would do it. He would master it. Then he would want to learn something new. He'd go back to YouTube, look at another 30-second video, go back into his game, and so on and so on and so on. Other things about Evan is he expects his apps to update automatically. And oh, by the way, he doesn't pull articles off of Google to read. In fact, he says that only boomers do that. He listens to music on his phone. He does schoolwork on his phone. He literally takes his phone with him everywhere. Now, his mom has even commented that she's pretty sure that phone is glued to his hand. Okay, yes, I am Evan's mom. But I tell you the story because as I've watched my child engage and learn in these new ways, it's made me ponder over my career what I need to do as a learning professional to engage this generation in the workplace, because they're coming next, right? But just as important, how do I take these new expectations for learning with technology and apply them now to the generations that are already in the workforce? So a little bit about generations. There's 4 main generations in our workforce right now. We have our baby boomers. Those are the individuals born from 1946 to 1964. They're about 25% of our workplace population. Then we have our Gen Xers. Gen Xers were about 33% of the population, and that's those of us born in the mid-60s to the early 80s. Gen Y, better known as millennials, that's about 35%. They're born in the early 80s to the mid-90s. And then finally, here's Evan's generation, Gen Z, only about 5% right now, born in the mid to late 90s to the early 2010s. Now, while this breakdown is interesting, I think the important thing to consider as we look at the current trends is, what does the modern learner look like? Because guess what? It's all of these people, right? The description of the modern learner that 𝗩𝗶𝗲𝘄𝗿 used many, many years ago is really still true today. We're overwhelmed, we're distracted, maybe we're a little impatient, But we are very hungry to learn, and we want to grow our skills to the point that if we're in an organization that doesn't enable and help us to do that, frankly, we're just going to leave. So let's talk a little bit about the modern learner. In an Insights from Impact report from 2018, 𝗬𝗶𝗲𝘄𝗿 shared that the average worker is actually spending about 25% of their time every week on emails, and we check our phones about 150 times a day. Out of a week, we're spending about 33% of our time in meetings, and probably many of us in the session today can think about meetings we've been in that probably weren't even that productive while we were in them. On top of that, we're interrupted about 56 times a day. Sometimes I feel like it's even more than that. So that's 5% of our week where we're being interrupted. Being productive is challenging. And meanwhile, the average time that people put aside to actually learn for work is only around 20 minutes a week. I mean, that's only 1% actually set aside for learning. So it's no wonder that the modern learner is begging for targeted, timely, personalized, and interesting learning content. What else about the modern learner should we know? Modern learners learn as we need to, anywhere, anytime. So according to Toward Maturity's Bridging the Divide report, they've researched about 43,000 plus learners over the last 20 years or so. They've discovered that more than half of the learners like to learn at the point of need. So in this infographic, we have about 56%. Of those learners, about 48% of us, we're learning on evenings and weekends. 41% of us are learning at our desk. 30% of us during breaks and at lunch. And then 28% of us on the way to or from the office. Think maybe you're listening to a podcast in your car, or if you're using public transportation, you might be engaging on your mobile device with some kind of learning. And it's interesting, of course, as we understand from additional studies, the majority of users in these cases, they're turning to their smartphones to do this. So the modern learner turns to their phones for a lot of things. And this really helps frame how distracted and bombarded really that modern learners are. The average person is spending 2+ hours a day on your smartphone. I feel like it's more than that. I know my smartphone even tells me how much time I'm spending on my phone. This raises to maybe 3+, 4 hours more for your 18 to 24-year-old population. And if we look back at Evan and his friends, we all know they're probably spending much, much more time, maybe up to 8 hours on their phones. And so if we're turning to our phones as the modern learner, that means that we need to also meet them with our emerging trends where they're at. We're spending a lot of times on our phones. It's no surprise that we're going to turn there when we want to learn something as well. So today in our time together, we're going to look at 5 trends. We're going to focus on microlearning, gamification, immersive learning experiences, so think VR and AR, personalized learning pathways, and then something that I call in the flow or in the moment of need. So how do we take the profile of our modern learner and apply these latest trends? Let's go ahead and get started by looking at our microlearning and bite-sized content. We already know that time is a very precious commodity. And this trend focuses on delivering information in bite-sized portions. So no more hour-long lectures, no more hour-long e-learnings, no more sitting in a classroom all day and listening to someone present from presentations. This trend really focuses on giving learning in short videos, interactive quizzes, infographics, similar to what I just showed you. Those are the popular formats for this trend, and it really allows learners to consume that information quickly and efficiently. And going back to our smartphone information, that mobile learning, those apps that are on our mobile phones, they're really capitalizing on this trend. They're providing that on-the-go access to the bite-sized lessons that really fit into our busy schedules while accommodating those shorter attention spans, right? So remember, microlearning by itself, though, isn't the answer. It's also about how it's delivered and practiced and reinforced. So let's look at a practical application. And as we go through each trend, we'll talk a little bit about it, and then I'll give you some practical applications as well. So imagine you have a new salesperson coming into your organization, and they have to learn the product line that you're selling. The product line is vast. There's many different combinations that can be created to meet a customer's need. Rather than have that new salesperson sit through hours of lectures or an e-learning that outlines each of your product lines and the pieces of it and the ways they work together, let's break this down into those bite-sized pieces that are part of that micro-learning trend. So our new salesperson is going to complete a micro-learning. Maybe it's actually on their smartphone. Maybe it's when they're commuting. It's going to contain a short product overview of just one product. We'll call it product A. In addition to that, they'll watch a short video of a salesperson actually demonstrating how to present that product or sell that product to a client. That's it. Then when that new salesperson comes into the classroom environment, we can engage, reinforce, and practice what they've learned in the micro-learning. So they come into our classroom environment, they use the knowledge from the micro-learning, and then they practice actually selling and talking about that product with maybe other new salespeople within the class or with the facilitator. But the idea is they're refining those selling skills that they were able to get a foundation from that micro-learning. And that process really continues over and over again. Product B, we have some micro-learning, we come back in the classroom and we reinforce it, and so on and so on and so on. So at the end of their learning, they have a compilation of those micro-learnings plus those practice sessions that allow them to confidently and effectively be able to sell those products. So I think that as we think about that, micro-learning we can say is absolutely perfect for fast-paced lives. It offers those digestible nuggets of knowledge that can be consumed on the go. So what are our key points with microlearning? Provides quick, bite-sized, easy to digest learning. The formats include short videos, infographics, short podcasts, something that can be consumed very easily. It's ideal for busy schedules. It allows for quick information absorption, and learners can choose what they want to focus on so that it leads to that higher learner engagement and knowledge retention. And every trend we're going to look at today, I'm going to come back to that engagement and that retention, because that's really where learning happens. All right, so on to trend number 2, gamification. Yeah, learning can be fun. So by transforming learning into a game, employees are not only motivated, but they're eager to dive into new knowledge. So it could be simulations, quizzes, interactive videos. Gamification adds that element of fun and challenge to learning. So think of it as unlocking achievements or reaching new levels in a game. It really taps into our competitive spirit and that desire for accomplishment. And I'll tell you, doesn't matter what age you are or generation, we all have that little bit of competition in us, right? And with the popularity of gaming, it's really no surprise that turning to learning as a game is becoming a pretty big go-to strategy within L&D. Now, some of the gamification elements that are important to remember. Gamification is already built into many of the learning platforms that you're probably already using today. So many LMS platforms already have this. It includes things like badges, leaderboards. It's also supported in most of the major e-learning authoring tools. So think Articulate as one of those. But no matter how it's being used or where it's being created or where it's being delivered, there are particular elements of gamification that you want to remember that are really going to engage that learner. So first, we want to present a problem, and that problem needs to be presented in a story format. We want to give our learners challenges along the way. They have different levels of accomplishment. Very importantly is we give our learners that instant feedback so that they can improve along in that game, and then they can see their score as they proceed through the different levels. Again, learners get badges, they get awards, and you put your points on a leaderboard that then again is shared across the organization so that learners can see how they can compare to other people that have been part of that gamification. So let's go back to our example of the salesperson, and let's apply gamification to this person. So in this step of their learning journey, they are learning how to overcome objections from their clients. So using a gamification approach, we can create an interactive branching simulation that requires them to make decisions along the way as they interact with that customer. The decisions they make can earn them points, can send them to the next level in the game, earn them the sale if they address the client objections successfully, or get them kicked out of the office if they don't. But either way, the new person receives feedback along the way, and they can navigate this game over and over again, making different decisions that really allow them to perfect and practice those skills. A couple of key points to take away from gamification. It motivates employees through that game-like learning experience. As I mentioned, it increases engagement and it increases motivation to learn by tapping into the competitive spirit that we all have. And there's a variety of formats that you can use for gamification: quizzes, simulation, branching scenarios, interactive videos. Really, gamification is just limited by your creativity and the people on your team that are able to sort of bring your vision to life. Our third trend that I want us to look at today is immersive learning experiences. Very fancy way of saying VR and AR. So virtual and augmented reality technologies are increasingly integrated into educational settings, providing immersive learning experiences and really engage all of our senses, right? VR simulations offer those realistic environments for training in fields like medicine, engineering, emergency response, even customer service and leadership skills, all of that allowing learners to practice those skills in a safe and controlled space. And that's the real key here with VR. Our AR applications, they really enhance that traditional learning environment. So AR overlays your digital information onto that physical world, and it creates that interactive and dynamic educational content. So let's imagine that you're a medical student and you're learning how to conduct a very delicate surgical procedure. Or maybe you're a new employee in a warehouse and you're tasked with working on very complex and potentially dangerous equipment. You put that VR headset on, you're taken out of that real environment and placed into that immersive training environment where now you can develop confidence and make mistakes in a safe environment, all while receiving that tailored feedback to improve your performance. So whether it's safety simulations, sales and customer service scenarios, VR really makes learning incredibly realistic and engaging. And as that VR technology has advanced, the potential truly for being an innovative L&D professional or creating those innovative experiences, honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing. I think we might not even know what the next great thing is, but so far we have seen this technology just really explode and develop very, very quickly into our corporate world. Additionally, VR training can be tailored to meet individual learning styles and preferences, which is becoming more increasingly important, especially as we get younger generations into our workforce. So by allowing learners to navigate and interact with virtual environments at their own pace, VR training accommodates different learning speeds. It ensures that each employee receives that personalized and effective instruction. So imagine you're a visual learner, most of us are. We thrive in interactive environments. With VR training, you can explore virtual simulations, manipulate objects, engage with realistic scenarios, all of which enhance your learning experience. Now, for those of us, on the other hand, who might prefer a more systematic approach, VR training can also be created to provide a very step-by-step instruction approach and guided exercises to really help that learner grasp those more complex concepts. So it has a lot of different ways that we can apply it and use it based on what our learners need. A couple of key points as we think about how we use virtual reality and augmented reality. Remember that it really fosters a heightened sense of realism and engagement. I keep coming back to that word engagement. Engagement is very important. You can create realistic simulations for a myriad of training scenarios across so many different kinds of organizations. It's really important because we become active participants in our learning. And as we know, if we are active in our learning, we are engaged and we are retaining and we are passing that learning along. And then obviously improved retention and knowledge transfer. As learners, we are more likely to remember and apply what we've learned in VR to real world situations because it feels like a real world situation. All right, our next trend number 4, personalized learning pathways. So with the advancement of AI, artificial intelligence, yep, I said it, and data analytics, personalized learning has become more accessible. I know some of us, when we hear AI, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if I like it. I think I like it. It's kind of weird, kind of cool, kind of creepy. But look, these learning platforms, they analyze a learner's strengths, their weaknesses, and learning styles so that they can tailor the content and the pace to their individual needs. So adaptive learning algorithms, they adjust the difficulty levels and the content completely based on the learner's progress, and it ensures that optimal engagement and understanding. So imagine learning tailored exactly to your needs, exactly to your pace of learning, your preferences. That really is the personalized learning approach. And in today's tech savvy world, that AI and machine learning algorithm approach, it's just turning this dream into a reality for all of us. It gives L&D teams the opportunity to craft really individualized learning paths for each team member. It's kind of like having your own personal tutor, right? It's guiding you through your learning journey based on what you need. So whether it's a new skill or brushing up on existing knowledge, that personalized learning ensures that higher engagement again and higher retention rates. And after all, if the content matches what you need and you're engaged, you're probably going to learn and retain it. So let's apply this personalization to a real life scenario. Go back to our salesperson again. And this person may be new to the company, but maybe they're not new to sales. So should their learning path look the same as someone who is new to the company, but also new to sales? I would say probably not. So things to consider as you start to think about how you're going to use a more personalized approach applied to your workforce. Goals and objectives of the learning, they still matter. Whether I'm a tenured salesperson or not a tenured salesperson, there are things that I need to do and learn after I go through a training. That doesn't change. But learners should be given the opportunity to test out of a skill or learning requirement if they can demonstrate mastery, kind of like the old pretest approach in a way. Learners need to feel in control of how and what they're learning. Definitely, you have to embed self-assessments and milestones for the learner to track their progress. That's an accountability, that's that personalized approach. And obviously, we have to go ahead and make sure that we're tailoring this to different styles and giving that tailored feedback. The good news is there's lots of platforms out there and lots of ways to help learning and development professionals do this. We don't have to come in with that knowledge ourselves. 3 main points when we think about personalization. Remember, these are customized learning paths for each employee. AI and machine learning, they're the ones that are creating the tailored learning experiences. And again, I always come back. These kinds of things, we have higher engagement and we have higher retention. So before we get to our 5th trend that we're going to talk about today, when you think about the 4 we've already looked at, the microlearning, the gamification, the VR, the personalized pathways, these trends, they hold immense potential individually, but their real power does lie in the synergy that they have when they work together. So picture this, you have a personalized learning path using AI. It's infused with gamified elements. It's delivered in bite-sized formats through microlearning modules. Oh, and by the way, you've experienced it by putting that immersive VR headset on and operating in your VR environment. So that's the future landscape of learning. It's an amalgamation of all of these transformative trends, and it's really about understanding what they can do and how to bring them together. All right, so that brings me to the last trend that I want to talk about. And I have news for you guys. This is not really new, but it never gets old. So this is what I call learning in the flow of work. You may have heard it called learning at the moment of need. There's a couple of different things that the L&D profession has called this, but it is one of the most important things. And we saw that on some of the statistics that I shared earlier. So remember that urgent task demanding a specific skill that you just can't remember how to do, or maybe you never mastered because you never really had to? Well, the days of searching through endless training modules or manuals, those days are over, right? L&D in 2024 and beyond, we need to embrace on-demand, bite-sized learning opportunities that are seamlessly integrated into our daily workflows. So imagine needing a quick reference. Maybe you're doing some financial modeling that's right before a crucial meeting, but you need a quick refresher. There's a couple of points you're not remembering. Enter your micro-learning modules within your project management tool. So you're working in your tool, and now you have this micro-learning that's served to you and offers that just-in-time knowledge right when you need it. This micro-learning revolution puts the power of learning directly in the hands of that employee, and it really does empower them to tackle the challenges in real time. So another example, and you might already be using this, another example is using tools like chatbots, virtual assistants to provide that just-in-time support and learning. So if you're struggling, let's say, with a software tool, instead of searching through a manual somewhere that maybe you got 6 months ago in your training, you can simply ask or even type into that virtual assistant for some help. And then you get that information that you need instantly. And guess what? You get back to work more efficiently. So learning in the flow of work is about integrating learning seamlessly into our daily tasks and routines. So instead of viewing learning as a separate activity that happens outside of work, it becomes a natural part of what we do every day. This approach acknowledges that the modern workplace, it's fast-paced, it's dynamic, and those traditional training methods, they might not be meeting our needs as efficiently and effectively as they have done in the past. So by embedding learning into our daily work processes, we not only save time, but we also create a culture of what I call that continuous improvement. And it encourages curiosity, experimentation, innovation, and we're constantly seeking to enhance our skills and knowledge to meet the demands of our role. So a few key points about working in the flow of work or learning in the flow of work. Remember, it's all about doing the learning while you're working. It's making learning an integral part of our daily work routines. It enables us to acquire new skills and knowledge when we need it most, or get those little refreshers, right? And by embracing this approach, we can stay agile, we can stay adaptable, and I think most importantly for learning development professionals, we can stay ahead of the curve in today's rapidly changing business landscape. So to wrap it up today, I want us to sort of reflect on this a little bit. These trends really do reflect a shift towards that more flexible, personalized, and engaging learning experience that empower individuals to acquire new knowledge and skills throughout their lives. Learning professionals, we need to build these learning experiences for the people currently within our organization, but also for the future of our organization. So not just the people and the generations and the learners that are going to be there for the future, but think about it, it's the future of the work and the way the work will be done. So my belief is embracing this kind of evolution and using these kinds of technologies and figuring out how they all work together, it's kind of not an option for us, right? I feel that truly it is the key to unlocking a future where learning transforms into a strategic advantage for organizations. So I'm going to wrap this up there, and I think we have opportunity to have a Q&A session as well.
We sure do, Erika. Thank you so much for such a great session. That was really fun to walk through that and hear some different perspectives on what we're seeing with emerging trends for sure. We'll give everybody just a minute or two to type some things into the chat. If you have some questions for Erika, now's the time to put that forward, and we'd love to pass those questions on to her. But while we're waiting for folks to type in their questions, I've got one for you. I really loved your example from your son at the very beginning that illustrated that he doesn't read anymore. And as somebody who's Gen X, right, that was something we had reading lists over the summer, and we read things from cover to cover during college. And I've noticed even with myself, I don't read so much as I sample anymore. because there just isn't time to, do that kind of comprehensive absorption of information.
Yep.
One of the questions that we get in our industry from our customers is they want to know where the manual is. And they want some kind of a, right? They want some kind of a manual telling them exactly how to do their processes. And for the most part, I think people have adapted to online resources like Microsoft Learn, which is basically a comprehensive website that is the manual. It's just online now. But how do you redirect that question to more appropriate resources that are available for people now?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And, I started off talking a little bit about generations. I'm not saying get rid of manuals. Okay. Every once in a while, I'm a Gen Xer in the house. I like to pick up the manual. I might even highlight something, right? But I think that there's an opportunity for those of us in an L&D world to take snippets of that and take some of the concepts we talked about today and feed them to somebody in a format that is manual-esque, but is in the moment of work. It's on the screen for them. They can type in a search word that automatically maybe even takes them to that online version of that manual. It's Google-esque almost. So it's not literally going and picking up this very heavy manual and trying to remember what page I'm on. It's using that digital technology to go right to the information that I need. Again, though, I do think that you have to recognize your learners, but sometimes they need a little gentle push, right, to use some of those technologies.
Absolutely. Good. It looks like Tessa has a question. She says, how long should the micro learning videos be?
Great question, Tessa. So you heard me say 30 seconds. Frankly, I can't learn in 30 seconds. I don't know how some people can. Maybe they can. In my experience, I would say I usually do 3 to 4 minutes. But if you don't want to do really much more than 5. And so your opportunity is to take that task or that piece of knowledge and you have to break it out into its smaller pieces. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that I do at my current organization is we provide safety training to drivers. As you can imagine, that's pretty intense. But what we've been able to do is take the core pieces of all the little things that go into being a safe driver, and we create those 3 to 4 minute videos with little interactive quizzes at the end that they can then go practice if they need to once they're out in the field. So 3, 4 minutes, I say not much longer than 5. And it's really your job to break it down into those smaller pieces for them.
Very good. All right. I'll prompt folks again. If you have some questions for Erika, now's the time to put those into the chat. Of course, I have another question that I would like to ask, though. Erika, what is your favorite gamification technique?
So now I'm going to go old school. So Gen X will know where I'm going with this. Do you remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books from when we were kids?
Absolutely.
Like, to me, they were the original game. So you would read a story and get really into it, your character, and you'd come to a decision point. And you would be maybe prompted to have 3 things that you could do. And based on your choice, you go to a different page and sometimes you would win and everything was wonderful. Sometimes you would not win or maybe die, whatever the scenario was. I love branching scenarios. And the reason I love branching scenarios as a game is because you can keep coming back and see different ways that things fit together. To me, branching scenarios are like endless creativity. And frankly, it's not a super new technique. The way that it's embedded into learning is new, but you can use Articulate. You can even use old school PowerPoint to create branching scenarios that gamify things. So that's my number 1, but I'll tell you my close number 2. I love leaderboards and I love badges. People love badges. They love to get badges. I love to get a badge. We give out compliance training badges. We give points if you do it quick. In my organization, we even recognize you with real money if you get certain points within a certain time. That's a game. That's competitive. People are engaged and they're doing the learning and they're getting excited about it. So I think those 2 things together are super powerful.
Fantastic. I love that. I never would have thought about the choose your own adventure. That sounds really fun to me as well. Well, one more question for you for me while we're waiting for folks to type in more questions. There was recently a partner conference that a lot of the folks who are on this call were at. And I want to say that the content there was about 50% about AI and Copilot in particular.
Yep.
And As it regards to training, how long do you think it's going to be until AR and VR are reachable in the small and medium business segment? In
Yeah.
general, the cost is prohibitive for folks in our area.
It's interesting. I don't disagree with you. I'm in a medium-sized organization now, but it still can be very cost prohibitive. For me, what I've done is I've taken more so the concepts of what VR and AR can do and try to apply them with the tools that I have. From a cost perspective, how long will it be? I mean, we know that as technology evolves and things get bigger and better, the old technology becomes more affordable, right? We see that with technology all across everything that we use, really. But I think there are some really interesting off-of-the-shelf tools that are already out there that way they might not be put on that headset and do a VR, they still allow us as learning development professionals to use AI and put some of those techniques into our training. I was at a conference similarly, I think you and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago as well. It was like 90% AI, all about Chat GPT, Copilot. And I was like, whoa. But there's already things out there that we can be doing. In fact, I walked away from there with a laundry list of some free things even that people can start to use to incorporate some of those same concepts that AR and VR can provide to us. And Carrie, I can provide that list to you if you'd like to share with your team. Like I said, they're free or very, very inexpensive, and they're already available to us.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we'll add that to the show notes of the recordings as well, so people on the call here have that information, because all of that is great stuff to share. And there are so many tools out there. A lot of times it's very difficult to figure out what's the right choice and what are things that other people are using. So
it's hard to
fantastic.
keep up.
Thank you so much, Erika, for coming to present with us today. We very much appreciate your expertise and your perspective as part of our event. And for the folks who are attending today, we'd love to hear from you. There's a survey link on the screen now that you can just scan with your phone. We always like to get feedback on all of our sessions and find out what's valuable to you and what you'd like to hear about us next. So we'll pause here just for a minute or so until we move on to our next session. Erika, I can't thank you enough. Such a great session.
Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Do you suspect that there just has to be a better way, but you don't know what that is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.